Welcome, and this is Impact 2022. I am Nathaniel Watkins, and this is our continuing conversation where we talk about different topics, current events, where we talk about things that are relevant to relevant to talk about in the world from different standpoints, religious standpoint, Christian standpoint. For me, as an African American man, from that standpoint as well. And so this is our continuing conversation, and as always, we say please provide your questions and your comments by typing them into the comment section. And as they pop up, we will address them. As they come in, we will talk about them. And so please participate. It is a conversation, two-way street. And as always, we're going to head right into it, jump right into it. As many people have been watching, a lot of things going on in the news right now. One of the things that's impacted a lot of folks the most is gas prices. As you see, gas prices have gone crazy. I don't know where you may be located, but I paid $4.29 at one point last week, and they said in some locations it was over $7. And that's due to inflation. The price of houses has gone up. If you're looking for a house to purchase or buy, you've seen that the prices of that has risen at an alarming rate. Prices of food has gone up. And so you just look at inflation all back and forth. And you look at other parts of society as well, and you see this, the CRT has really kind of taken over a lot of parts of schools. And so there's a battlefield going back and forth with schools trying to decide what they want to do with CRT, the pressure that they're getting from parents and some legislators when it comes to teaching African American history. And so you look at that landscape as well. And I'm bringing up a lot of the issues and the problems to focus on a comment that was given to me the other day. And the reason being is because this comment was really surprising. And so I had a friend of mine who we were having a conversation, and he said to me, he was unhappy with who he had voted for in the presidential election. And he had said that, man, I almost wish, because the gas, prices are going crazy, and he's a big business guy. So, stock market has gone all down, and, just the economy wasn't where a lot of people wanted it to be. He said, I almost, and I'm keying on the word almost wish that I had not voted for the guy I voted for. And the comment was jarring because it was very specific about the fact that his money wasn't what he wanted it to be out of the policy or the administration. And so it made me think, and this is not a political question or a political conversation. It's a little bit more than that. And so it made me think about what we're willing to give up and what we're willing to look past in order for our money to be right. And so in this particular scenario with him, more so, you're looking past a leader. So you're looking at what juxtaposed how he thought about the leader and the leadership. On one hand, you had someone who was, we'll say, he had thoughts of, you have a guy who's racially not, his opinions about race is not where his was. On one side, you had a guy, when you're talking about people of different classes, poor and wealthy and middle class and all the different groups in between, his thoughts didn't align. And so you're looking at race and you're looking at economics, and it doesn't line up. You're looking at safety and other issues, it doesn't line up. But you're saying, well, because the money wasn't right, that you wish maybe you hadn't have voted for him. And so it's just an example of what the broader question is as individuals, and be more specifically as Christians, how many times or what's the line that we go to of where we say what we believe in or what's important, we'll push that to the side for money. And so let me phrase this another way. It is at what point does money or your success become more important than your values or your safety? For example, another example. For example, when you just look at people, just politics in general. And we're going back to politics now. When you're looking at it in general, you have people who sit back and say, well, I can get with a guy who's a little bit racist, or I can get with a guy or man or man or female who's a little bit racist or sexist, as long as I know that I can, succeed financially, or I can get this going. That's how you can do with your elected leaders. Or if you're in an organization, sometimes you can get with somebody who may be stealing money off the top or off of the organization, as long as you get a good paycheck. Or, there's numerous times you we even do it in sports where, you'll be with you'll root for a team and they cheating, or they do some unsavory things, but hey, as long as y'all win, you're okay with it. And where is the line? Where is the line of where we're just like, we're going to look past some things? Comment here. A major problem in America today is greed. And I think that's what it is. And it's, it's our greed meter. And so when we're looking at this and we're looking at the situations, it's what is our line? What is our line? Or what is our, basically, as some people say, in order to make an omelet, you got to crack some eggs, or you have, when you're fighting a war, a battle, you have, some human casualties, some casualties that may happen, some accidents that may happen, but you have to do that in order to win. And that's the way we look at it when we're looking at life. We're looking at what little human casualties here and there that we have to do to win. And so what is the line? And how does that, and so the question, how does that affect church, or how does that affect us on our Christian walk, or how does that affect us in our daily lives? And it's just basically, who are we going to allow to get hurt so that we can feel okay? You look at the situation in Ukraine, and you look at other countries and how they're kind of looking at it. And, in the past, there was this more of a, each country was being more to themselves and saying, well, whatever issue is going on over here, as long as it doesn't affect us, we'll allow that to happen. And that used to be more so of how countries used to work, where every country was just kind of isolated into themselves before we became this global community, as they say. And we look at our individual issues where, as long as everything is good with me, then I'll allow somebody else to get hurt. So in your community, in our communities, as long as our taxes are low, then we don't care whether or not the schools have the facilities that they need in order to take care of the children. As long as I'm able to get, my taxes can stay low, I don't care whether or not, we'll make it real. As long as my taxes are low, we don't care whether or not they continue the child tax credit. And mothers and children who were in poverty, the poverty was reduced by 30%. Well, I don't care about continuing that as long as I can keep my taxes low. And so what is the line? Another comment here. People don't care about their brothers or sisters today or about life. I think that's a great comment. And that's where it comes into play. And that's where it becomes problematic. And you hit exactly where we were going. if we're going to continue to be Christians, and our job is to care about one another, our job is to care about our brothers and sisters, our job is to care about our neighbors, our job is to care about our enemy, then having those moments of, well, as long as my this or that is okay, then I'm okay with letting some things slide and letting some things go. I don't think that's consistent with the Word of God. I don't think that's consistent with how we should be as Christians. I don't think that's consistent with how we should be as good people. And so I think that's what's problematic. I always tell this story, and I go back to it, and I may have said it on here before, but I'll say it again because I think it's important. For me, the person who is the most at fault in situations is not the person who's actually doing the bad thing. It is the person who is watching the person do the bad thing. It is the bystander who is watching. And there's numerous reasons, and I'll give it. And I give the example. There was a guy, Penn State. He was a coach at Penn State, and he got in trouble because this guy was inappropriately touching young men. His name is Sandusky. And you can look it up. And so during the trial, they had brought it. They had a trial, and they had Sandusky coming up there, and they had individuals who were giving their testimony, young boys who were giving their testimony, who ended up he would bring them to his house and things like that. And one of the young boys testified that Sandusky would take him into the basement and then abuse him. But when he took him into the basement, the young boy would scream and yell. And he could hear Sandusky's wife upstairs walking around. And he knew that she could hear him because it wasn't that the ceiling everything was so thick based on however this house was put together. He said that he knew that she could hear him screaming out, but she did nothing. And so to me, the person who is listening and hearing and doing nothing is worse. In her situation, she is doing exactly what my friend was talking about. In her situation, she's doing exactly what many of us talk about when we say, as long as our money right. She had her husband, who was a football coach, who was bringing in lots of money, providing for the family, providing for the house. And so she acted as if she could not hear what was going on in the basement. She turned a blind eye because as long as my stuff is straight, I can turn a blind eye to these couple of kids who are getting their life altered in a very negative way. And so I said that she's even worse because and we'll go back, if Sandusky had an issue, and let's give him some grace here and say he had an uncontrollable issue. It is your job as a person who is clear-eyed, clear mind, that can go in and be like, look, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to save the next person. And so that comes back to us and our question of when we are making decisions, and we are making decisions about just anything, whether it's what organization we're going to be with, what leadership we're going to follow in any kind of facet, just what we're going to do and what we're going to be as people. The question becomes, what are we going to let go and slide by? Just like in the example, the lady let it slide by because her money train was her husband who was doing bad things. If we're put in the same situation, are we going to go for the money train, go for the provisions and the providing, or are we going to go for what's right? And if, as the comment came in and said, people don't care about their brothers and sisters, if we are going to care about one another and our neighbors, then how do we let the money train get in the way of how we're supposed to treat one another and treat our neighbors? And so as we look at a bunch of different issues that are going on right now, basically everything that I'm seeing when we're talking about larger issues and groups, group issues and the group dynamics, it's the question of, are you going for yourself or are you going for everybody else? And so the example that my friend gave, to wrap this all the way back to the beginning, is that he was disenfranchised with who he voted for president. But he was very clear and very understanding that if he had voted for the other person, it would have been a situation of where racist behaviors that were being encouraged, white nationalist behaviors that were being encouraged, hateful and hurtful and behaviors that were being encouraged from the leadership top down, were going to increase and continue. And even though that puts his safety, his children's safety, his wife's safety, his family's safety, he puts all of those into question, put all of them at risk. He sat back and said, well, makes me almost wish I had voted for the other guy. So just because your money isn't right, just because the stock market isn't doing what you wanted it to do, just because you have to pay $4 gas instead of $2 gas, just because the price of cheese and milk and eggs has gone up 25% in the last year, you're willing to allow the safety of your family, the safety of those who you don't know, your safety of yourself to be compromised. And so I just wonder how many times we do that on a daily basis. How many times do I do that on a daily basis? Where I look at my benefit versus the harm and directly at me or my family or people that I don't know. And so how many times do we turn a blind eye? And I think that that's one of the things that we have to be cautious and conscious. So we have to be cautious that we're not doing it and conscious that we're thinking about it when we make decisions. Like, why am I a part of this opinion? Why do I get with this group? Why do I think this way? Is it because I'm being kind of selfish and I'm going for mine and I'm turning my blind eye to the harm that other people are having? One last thing, and then we're done. There is a famous basketball player. His name is Enes Kanter, and he changed his name to Enes Kanter Freedom. He played for the Boston Celtics. He doesn't play for anybody now, and he says this is the reason why. He spoke out against China, and he spoke out against the other basketball players when it came to China. And he said the NBA is trying to go towards playing in China, and we're going to go play where they're having slavery and systematically are killing off a population of people in China. And he says we're going to turn a blind eye to this so that we can do our NBA contracts and we can play and we can expand the league. He says many of y'all are sitting here talking about Black Lives Matter, but then you turn around and you're going to go wear you're going to go wear shoes that you know are being made in China in the sweatshops by these people who are in slave labor. And he spoke out against that. He talked, so to many of the people who sat here and were advocates for social justice here in the United States, he said, how can you do that and then turn a blind eye to those who are in China? And just because you don't see them. And so I think that is emblematic of what the whole conversation is. We don't talk about what's going on in China. We don't talk about those. One, because we don't know, but two, because it's inconvenient for our bottom line. Many of us, not me, because I don't have a shoe line or I don't have products that are coming out of China, but it's inconvenient. And so we let it go. Great. We have another comment here. 1 John chapter 2, 15 through 17. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of the life comes not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. We can't love stuff, greed, the world more than we love our responsibility as Christians, loving God, and our responsibility to one another and loving one another. And so I encourage you, if you don't know about what's going on in China, find out. No. If you want to look up Enes Kanter Freedom, please look him up. Enes Kanter, Enes Kanter, Kantor. Look it up and be informed. But what I'm going to do, homework time for myself, and then you can join in if you want. But what I'm going to do is to do a self-assessment and just go a little slower on my decisions. And when I make a decision, make sure that I'm not making it for myself at the expense of others. And so I encourage you to do the same thing. Well, that is it for tonight. Short night. I thank you and thank everyone for the comments that were given in. I thank everyone who has joined us again for Impact 2022. Please continue to join us. We will be here week after week talking about the issues that are important. And if you have a comment or a question, please continue to go ahead and put it into the chat. The conversation continues. As always, I thank you. Remember, we will also be here on Thursdays, same place at 7 for Thursday Thirst, and on Sundays as well at 10 o'clock for service. Again, my name is Nathaniel. Have a good one. Thank you, and have a good night.